organizations, both Western and Muslim organizations. And so it became a really interesting point, where now a lot of Sunni students were supporting the Taliban because they said, you know, these people are supporting Islam and they're supporting a Muslim government. And a lot of Shia students were saying, hey, wait a minute. Do you know who these people are and what they've done? And so you can see how outside events and outside world events, thousands of miles away, have an effect on our community. And unless we have strong bridges and abilities to trust, learn, work with each other, things like this that happen overseas and that happen across the world will impact us. Why is it important? You know, why is it important to have unity? And I hear this a lot. And I'll have brothers and sisters who say, why? They hate Ahlul Bayt, or they hate our beliefs. What's the point? You know, why should I even, or they will say from a utilitarian perspective, I only have a finite amount of time. You know, my capacity is only about 5 hours a week or 5 hours a month to work for Islam. Why should I spend 4 or 3 or 2 or even 1 of those hours working for unity when I'm openly being campaigned against, when there's openly people speaking out against me as a Shia? Why should I spend that little amount of time to work on unity when I could be, you know, working with non-Muslims or doing homeless feeding or doing XYZ, all the other important things? So there's the mentality that says absolutely no, it's not important, I don't care about it. Then there's the sub-mentality that creeps in, that even I think everyone will at some point get this where they say, I don't have time for it, I don't have the energy for it, or it's not worth it. And so why? What is the importance of unity? One important thing is, it's obvious, is it builds strength within the Muslim community. That's the obvious understanding. There are those, I mean, it's you know, we can think about it in a vacuum, but it's not. In this world, there are some people who don't like Muslims and who openly campaign against them, and who seek to exploit the Muslim community for their own gain. In a study that was done by the Rand Corporation, for people who may not, it's a well-known think tank in the United States, very well funded, very well respected, and often does studies for the Air Force, the military, the CIA. They did a study in 2004. And this study was called The U.S. Strategy in the Muslim World After 9/11. And it was conducted on behalf of the U.S. Air Force. And in that study, they said, one of our primary objectives is to identify the key cleavages and fault lines amongst sectarian, ethnic, religious, regional, and national lines within the Muslim community, and to assess how these cleavages generate challenges and opportunities for the United States military. And so, it's no secret, it's wide open, that people are studying our bridges and how they may be burnt and how they may be susceptible to burning, and saying, how can we exploit that for our own personal gains? And so we can either fall within that ideology and that thinking and that trap, or we can say, no, we will stand up against that and we will build the bridges that need to be built. Another reason is, I want to start in and I want to move out. Another reason is for the very basic, it helps Shias. And that is from a purely, if you just want to look at it, if you're I'm just interested in the Shia community, I will tell you, unity helps Shias. Why? And it's not the only reason. Obviously, it helps all Muslims and it's good for all Muslims. Why does it help Shias? When I was on campus at UCLA, I knew a lot of Shia students who would not come to the MSA, who just absolutely would never come around to the MSA, to the Muslim community. And I would tell them, why? You know what? You know, there's great events, there's all kinds of good stuff happening, there's a great community. Why won't you come? And they said, you know, when I come and I pray in a certain way, or I put down my totaba, or I get a bad vibe, I get bad energy. I don't like that I don't like the way people look at me. I'm just not going to come. And so they miss out on all the events and all the work and all the chances for really making positive change that could be happening through the MSA, through working on newspaper coalitions, through volunteering at high schools, all the things that an organization could do. They miss out on it. Why? Because they don't feel a brotherhood and a sisterhood within the community. So from a very selfish perspective, it helps Shias as well, because we're part of a larger community in this country. And we're part of organizations, national, regional, local, on campus, in our community, and it's important that we plug into those. But beyond that, it's an opportunity. It's the importance of it is because it's our obligation as Muslims to work for unity. It's our obligation to overcome these things and to work with our brothers and sisters. And I will صلي على محمد وآل محمد. I want to dispel the myth that, why should I work with them? Them being, why the speaker being, a Shia who would not want to work with Sunnis, who thinks that, they are not worth working for. Why should I work with them? They hate me or they hate my beliefs. And that's absolutely false for 99.9% of Muslims. In my opinion. I haven't done a study, but in my opinion. I think a lot of the antagonism and just the barriers comes from ignorance, where people just don't know the beliefs of Shias and the foundations and the roots, and showing that it comes from a same strand and a same line. For example, one time I got up to pray, and I forget, it was at some masjid. I think it was during Ramadan, and I went there to break fast with some brothers and sisters, and then I went and prayed. And then after I prayed, somebody else came and they said, "Why are you praying with your hands down, and why do you have this piece of thing in front of you, which is a turba?" And I said, well, and this guy, he happened to be African. I think he was from Senegal. And in North Africa, there's a lot of people of the Maliki school of thought, which is one of the 4 Sunni schools of thought. And I said, do you know, have you ever met people who are Maliki? And he said, yes, of course. And I said, have you ever seen them pray? And I don't know if he had. And I said, have you ever seen them pray? And he said, what do you mean? I said, they pray with their hands down. And I said, have you ever asked a Maliki scholar, what is the most favorable thing to pray on? And he said, no. I said, they will tell you it is preferred that they pray on the earth, that they pray on something that can't be worn or eaten. And he said, where did that come from? And so we had a long discussion about Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, and how he worked with so many of the biggest and the most prominent Muslim scholars of the time, and of the verses in the Quran, and of these things. And by the end, I had, somebody who came to me with a scowl and kind of a gruff look. He smiled. We ate dates together. All not to go in the kumbaya, happy-go-lucky, but it was a nice moment, right? And then when I'd see him at the masjid, we'd smile and we'd say hello, and that animosity didn't come from a basic hatred. It came from a lack of understanding, and a lack of understanding of the roots and the foundations for our beliefs and how they come from a same line. So that is also another reason why, is because it's important that we dispel that ignorance and that lack of understanding, and that we dispel the myths that are being propagated every single day by the Wahhabi influence in this world. This is a very serious agenda that's being portrayed against us. Those of us who have gone to Hajj recently or visited Saudi Arabia, you talk with a lot of the scholars who are there, who have been there for many years, and they will say, last year there used to be a wall here, and it was an old foundation of one of the houses of a companion or of one of the Ahl al-Bayt, and now it's been destroyed. Or there used to be the Jannat al-Baqi, where the graveyard of a lot of the imams and a lot of the believing companions are all there, and they said, there used to be a great area here. You used to know who was buried here. You used to be able to come here and give peace to them, and recite dua that wishes peace upon them. And now you can't, and now it's under such tight restrictions. And that is spreading. There's a huge campaign within prisons in this country. Who does the most da'wah in prisons in this country? It's the Saudi Arabian scholars. Those are the scholars that do the most da'wah to prisons in this country. When I used to go for a